morning. Again, welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Carl and Charlene. And we got another wonderful show for you today. Starting off this week, we have a guest that is phenomenal, and I can't wait to have her on. I just her story is amazing. Her journey is amazing. As you can see, our topic today is Are You an Unstoppable Leader? And my point of reference with her and speaking with her, she is just that. So I want to welcome everybody that's watching, those that are watching it live, those that are going to be participating in the hashtag replay. We want you to drop your comments and tell us where you're tuning in from. Of course, you guys know this is global real talk. This is just not nationwide, countrywide. This is global, and we do real talk, and we're leveling up you in business and in your life. And right now, without any further ado, I've got to bring to the stage my amazing co-host, Charlene Brown. Come on to the stage. Let me see ya. How are you?
Hey.
Yes, that is her signature wave. Hey, we get that on every show. How can we not live without that? I am just excited about who we have on today. I've spent a few Zoom calls with her, talking with her, learning about her, and phenomenal is the word that comes to mind when I talk about her. She may not feel that way, you know how humble people are, but man, when you hear some of her story, you just will be blown away by where she is now and how God has really shined on her in the course of what she's been through. So we're going to bring her to the stage. Rocio, how are you, dear?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, yes, yes. It is a pleasure to have you on. So my guests a little bit about you, but just give us a little bit about you and this journey that you on before we really get into the meat and potatoes of the unstoppable leader. Like, how do we get to this point with you, Miss Perez?
How do we get to this point? That's an amazing question, and thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Carl and Charlene, I was a little girl with a dream, and I would run around with my tattered books, and I would tell anybody that would listen, someday I'm going to grow up and I'm going to become a teacher. I was fascinated by life, fascinated by learning, fascinated with education. And I would talk with anyone that would ever listen to me. And it was amazing. The journey was amazing. I was on the spelling bee, ABC, 1, 2, 3, you name it, in school. Yet the reality was very different. I came from extreme poverty and abuse of all kinds. I ran away from home at the age of 12. And I knew at that point that in order for me to live, I would have to do something drastic. And I remember when I looked at my grandmother and I said, Grandma, you know they're going to kill me. And her response was, I know.
Mm.
And my plea was, I need you to help me. And through her courage and the courage of my 16-year-old uncle at the time, who helped me run away, I ran away. I ran away from my family. My family left town a day after. And I made up a huge story that I was pregnant. I was at the airport and I was leaving. You could only imagine a little girl in such desperation to leave her family. My parents left town. I stayed with my grandparents. And I fell into the wrong crowd, if you could only imagine. I started drinking and partying and smoking just to numb the pain of what I had just lived. Nobody knew, nobody could figure, even phantom what was going on. At the age of 14, after going through all of that, I was going to be returned back to my parents. And I said, There's no way. There's no way. If they didn't kill me the first time, they definitely will this time. And I ran away from home this time with my 22-year-old boyfriend.
Mm.
And you would guess it, 2 weeks later, I was pregnant. Alone in a city, not knowing anyone, trying to figure life out on my own. Now I was in an abusive relationship, another one of a different kind. And it was mentally, physically, emotionally abusive relationship. At the age of 15, I knew one thing for certain. Being a Latina, 12-year-old runaway, 15-year-old mother, teenage parent, uneducated, sixth grade education, working menial jobs, my son didn't stand a chance in the world. And at the age of 15, I was knocking on the university doors to let me in. And as they pleaded and said, "Hey, you can't come to school," my response was constantly the question, how else can I get in? How else can I get in? I had to be 15. I was 15. I had to be 16. My parents needed to sign. They had no desire to see me. I ended up getting emancipated. That was the only way to go to university. I was accepted at the age of 16. And I remember that was a journey. I had a mentor person who was amazing, and she had come to my home the day that she figured out that I would not go to high school. She says, "Rocio, what are you going to do the day that your son comes to you and says, I need help with my homework?" And my response was nothing. Out of a place of respect, out of a place of not define my own authority and just be present with her. And I waited until she cooled down. A couple of days later, called her back. I belong in university. I need help. I want to go to university. I know I can make it. And I know that everything is possible. And I pled that I didn't belong in high school. I belonged in an environment that created opportunity and possibility for myself and for my son. And as I was divorcing my parents, she was in the other room taking care of my son. Fast forwarding through that, I started university. It was an 8-hour journey almost on a daily basis to go to and from school. 4 hours in the morning, get up, went to bed 3 o'clock in the morning. I was up, 3 hours of sleep, take care of everything that I needed to take care of. Now I had a big backpack. I just prepared lunch for his father, my lunch, my baby's lunch. Here I'm walking down the street with a 2-year-old in my arms, backpack, diaper bag, in the snow to make it to school every day. And back at the end of the day, the irony was that there was a car outside the entire time. I just wasn't worthy enough of using that car. I'd run away from that relationship. He'd come find me, threaten me to take my son away from me. I'd go back. To the tune of 17 times, back and forth. At the age of 19, when I no longer feared having my son taken away from me, I ran away. I left. I escaped. Homeless, figuring life out. I had sold my car to my brother for $500 and decided I wanted to start my life. I had to give it everything I had for my son, for myself. 19, homeless, 4-year-old, figuring out life. I continued going forward into that, knowing that anything was possible and probable in life. I started mentoring other students who were older than I was, who had graduated from high school, who were on their second careers, who was old enough to be my parents. And here was life. It was a journey. It was just beginning. I had the privilege to, if you can only imagine, right? I graduated with 2 associate's degrees. I moved on to the University of Colorado, Denver, and graduated from there with a bachelor's in international business. I continued moving forward, and all this entire time I was working 2 jobs, making ends meet. And I graduated with my bachelor's. I moved on to Regis University and had graduated with dual MBA in international business and marketing while I was traveling and working 70 hours a week and going to school double time. I wasn't even allowed to go full time. I was going to school double time. I was going to sneak in there because I wanted to get through as fast as I could. And I knew that I could do it while we were building a home from the ground up as well, all simultaneously. And here we are today, fast forwarding through life. What makes us unstoppable, you asked? The will. The will to persevere and to do what we know is in our heart. I know what guided me was my guiding force, is what I knew was inside of me that kept on drawing me to it in life.
Amazing story. That's the first question. What does unstoppable leader look like? Wow, I couldn't have I couldn't have scripted that or even written it out as a storyline any better than what has really took place and just the dynamic of that story. And oftentimes I hear these stories and I hear stories like yours, and I've heard it from like grandparents or once before me, but and man, you hear it all the time. I had to walk 100 miles to school in the snow, bare feet. Like it becomes like a rite of passage that's passed along, especially to our communities, African Americans, Latinos. Those before us oftentimes remind us of the hard struggles that they went through to get to the place. But here you are as a young Latina with so many, I wouldn't necessarily say strikes, but with so many things against you, and to be persevering past each and every obstacle definitely puts you in the category of unstoppable leader. Wow. What you got on that, Charlene?
I'm just saying, like, when you hear people go through a lot and they just know that there's something better out there, they're not going to stop, they're not going to let anything deter them. Your story is such an amazing example of that, where you just keep pushing forward because you know there's something better. You know there's something more that you were meant for, and you weren't willing to just sit there and accept what other people told you to accept. So I'm loving that.
Yeah. Yes. What is in talking about how did you come across the inclusion? Well, I guess I can kind of derive that from your story, but how did you come across where you wanted to be this speaker and this trainer, and how did you come across the direction of taking the inclusive and the diversity avenue? Because that in looking at you, I know it pertains to you and who you are, where you're from, your culture, and those things. Inclusion, diversity, it covers all of us actually that we talk about it. But how did you make that like your choice of this is where I'm going to make my mark in the world?
I think the most phenomenal thing that we have is the ability to be able to imagine our world. And that's where it all came from. To imagine that the world that I lived in would not be the world that I would live in. And that one's life. Right? That when we can see that future. And for me, it was to see that future of the teacher, that person that gets to touch, move, and inspire. I had no idea. All I knew is that that teacher on TV, when I was watching her at the age of 5, she was amazing talking with the little children.
Mm.
And I thought about going into education. And what I didn't realize, although that I went into business, everything led me in that direction. Education, training is a form of education. Inspiring, delivering speeches is a form of education. It's a form of touching, moving, and inspiring people. For me, I know that adversity is our best friend when we learn from it. That there are some gifts in adversity that some of us are yet to discover, and it's all in there. This realm that I'm in, I bring a different twist to it. Diversity inclusion is amazing. And let's also include leadership as an aspect of it to see how a person operates, right? Because we can bring people into our organizations and we may not understand who they are and what has shaped them into who they have become. Their untapped potential, their amazing gifts that they have to contribute into the organization. When a leader understands that, they can bring them into it, where that person feels psychologically safe. I mean, how many of us haven't felt like an imposter? Like, let's go ahead and raise our hands, right? Because we all been there, right? At one point or another in life, whether it was as a child, as a teenager, as a professional, as whoever, we've felt like an imposter at one point or another. What does it look like for somebody to have compassion and empathy and connect with an individual to try to get into their world, to do their very best to figure out what are they going through? How do I connect? How do I create relatability with this individual? Now they're inside of this organization and now they're thriving. What does that look like from there? Right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now,
Very.
as a international bestseller, I wanted to have you go a little into your coaching program because you have Unstoppable: 7 Steps to Becoming a more intentional leader. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Most definitely. I believe that everything is already within us now. Everything. Here's the book, right? Everything is within us in this moment. And that being said, is that we have the capacity to learn. We have the capacity to transcend everything and anything and everything that we are today is a result of who we became based on our environment. Nurture, nature, call it what you will, combination of both, combination of life and what's inside of that individual. The first part of the book has how do you do more in less time? That talks
Mm.
about leadership. Are leaders born or are they made? And what does that look like from that perspective? And to me, we're all leaders, right? You don't have somebody, I don't know about you too, but is anyone like knocking on your door and saying, hey, Charlene, can you get up this morning and take care of what you're going to take care of? We're all
Yeah.
leaders. We're bored, right? Somebody just said, hey, leadership is a title that's given to some. No, leadership is a title that is taken, okay? It is a title
Mm.
to me that is owned. Own your title. You have it. It's within you here in this moment. How do we unlock the potential of the mind? And this is all inside of Unstoppable. How do we do that? What does it look like to untap the potential of your mind, to understand how we operate as human beings, how we came here to be, not who we came here to be. And I'm going to repeat that one. How we came here to be in this moment versus who we came here to be, which is amazing potential into that. And how do we banish the invisible forces that get in the way? All the things where people said we couldn't, shouldn't, would not be good enough. I mean, my own mother told me I would never make it through university. Okay. I was told as a young child that I was garbage. Okay. I had to banish all of that. Everything that everybody said about me to say. And you know what? It's a process in life. It doesn't automatically go overnight. There's moments that things creep up and I'm like, where did that come from? And how do I transcend that in this moment? And we all have the ability to be able to do that. And then aligning our conflicting values. Here's one of the things that happens within us. And in my coaching, what I discover with individuals, 95% of our programming is internal. Everything that we know, this is every single human being. 5% is the conscious mind. Subconscious mind will always win. Okay.
Mm.
Until it is programmed, reprogrammed. Because everything that who we became in the subconscious mind has been here for a very long time. How do we reprogram this where we change the program, where we crush that old program and say, you know what, I've got this. I'm going to do something different. And it takes roughly 360 days to be able to do that consciously over and over. Catch yourself, do it again. Catch yourself, do it again. Something is plain and simple. I used to shake my hands when I wash my hands. I don't know where I learned it from. I'm sure that, it was like, shake your hands, get them dry fast enough, whatever. And as an adult, I'd still shake them. And I didn't know until one of my friends told me, said, why are you always shaking your hands when you wash your hands? And it's like, okay, how do I change that behavior every time I wash my hands and just go straight over to the towel and dry them, right? Something as simple, doing that over and over. Imagine doing that 500 times. Do you think that the new pattern is going to start to emerge? Yes, it is. Over and over again. And then we go back and over and we can shift it. And how do we align those desires now? Creating your desires. How do I create from here now? Not from what I was. Anyone can create. To create consciously is an entire different thing. And to create consciously after you've transcended is even more amazing. That is where your true self is. And then it provides a roadmap of what are those particular 7 steps. And I'll read them here. Fostering your capacity to change. We all have the capacity to change. From the moment that we have conscious awareness to the moment that we die, we have that opportunity to shift over and over again. The incisive discovery and accelerating insights, learning from people that already know. Why do I try to learn on my own into this? And this is where a lot of people come to me. Well, I did a lot of self-help, and they even have them in their testimonials. I had done a lot of self-help books and audio and courses and all these things, and I had never been led through a process, and now I get it, right? Now they've 10x their results in 9 months, in 10
Mm-hmm.
months, in a year, right? In that process. Prophetic vision, what's your vision? What does it look like? That's what kept me alive, was that I knew something was better, was out there in my future. May have not been in that present moment, and it was in the future. Speeding your personal evolution. Do whatever it takes over and over again. You go back, do it again. You fall, get up, do it again. You fall, get up, do it again. And then creating your own roadmap. Nobody, nobody gave me a roadmap and said, Rocio, here's your roadmap. I was the one leading the adults in my life to say, hey, I want to go to university. Here's my roadmap. I need you to help me get through this. Maybe it's step one, and sometimes it was. Some people came into my life and they were there for a conversation. Some of them were there for a week. Some of them there for a year. Some of them, I dreamt that they were there, right? Because I saw them on TV or video or wherever I saw them, and I borrowed from them. Okay, I borrowed from their energy. And we all have the capacity to be able to do that. And then taking massive action and using massive leverage, that is huge. To understand that it takes massive action. We can't go do it once and then expect for it to be complete. When I went to that first university and I knocked on their doors, it took me maybe 10 times asking them, how else can I make it in? No, you're too young. How else? You have to be 16. No, how else? You have to graduate. No, how else? There must be another way. What other way? What else is there? Right? To understand that, to leave no stone unturned until you're exhausted. Be that 2-year-old. How many of you remember being that 2-year-old? How many of you remember seeing that 2-year-old on the ground who cried until they passed out because they wanted that toy, right? Be at that level of exhaustion to say, you know what, I gave it every ounce of effort to get what I desired. And then the final piece is repeating the process, testing, tracking, and tweaking. Test it, track it, tweak it, right? If the process already works and somebody already laid it out, it works. And it may need some adjustments for us to capture that. And that's really what the process is about. It's about taking ourselves on an amazing journey to truly discover who we are, what our capacity is in this world, and how do we bring those gifts that we came in here. Not the ones where we're hiding and holding back, we all know what that looks like. We're at a boardroom or a meeting, whatever that may be, and we're like, I don't know if I should say that. And I don't know if I should say that. And I don't know if I should. And then somebody says it, and you're like, no, I was going to say that. Right? And we hold back over and over again. Our ability to be able to move forward and to bring forth what we have is a process. It's a process of relearning, and it's a process of going back to ourselves, remembering who we came here to be.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that, and that's pretty deep concept of, and how the steps of what you said to me that really caught my attention is that even in the looking at everything with all of these new entrepreneurs and these different business owners that are starting on all of these ventures, I'm finding out from just actually like following certain ones and hearing certain things and watching posts and hearing interactions and even seeing people on lives. I don't hear too many people talk about walking people through the steps or providing steps. I hear a lot of talk like I got 7 steps to 6 figures, or all of those kind of cliches talks, but I don't hear the thoroughness of how could I get from point A to point B. I'm someone who is maybe not familiar with this journey, but it's one I want to go on. How you can provide me the answers to that. I saw your deep dive questions. How can I achieve even greater success faster? And that's how most people. That's a question that a lot of people ask you. And I would take that to another level. How do I even go about achieving the success that that is in you as a leader? Maybe you wasn't put up as a leader, but like we had talked about earlier, you said that everyone has that in them and they're not maybe familiar with how to pull that out. How do we even go about with our own selves figuring out it's that who we are? Can we be that unstoppable leader?
And we can be that unstoppable leader. and we're all capable, and it's there. Are we willing to do what it takes? Are we
That's
willing? Are we and are we curious? Because anybody can be curious, right? Are we curious? Are we interested? Are we committed? Curious, interested, or committed, right? If I'm curious, I'm going to take a look at it and say, maybe that's something that I'd like to do someday. If I'm interested, I may start the process and then decide something else may come along the way. And then I discover maybe that's much more important at this moment. Let me focus my attention. Yet if I'm committed, then I'm going to do whatever it takes. It's going to rain, it's going to shine. I'm going to walk in the snow. I'm going to take 2 buses to make it to wherever, 3 buses, 10 buses, however many buses it takes to get to where we want. And it reminds me of the day when my father had suffered a massive heart attack, and his brother and sister were in Mexico. They hadn't been in the States. They literally took buses to get to the border. They didn't even know who was going to be on the other side of the border. I had a friend meet them there who had never met them, to get them into an airport that they had never been into, so that they can spend their last moments, my father's last moments, with them. That is commitment, to be able to trust the process, to be able to understand that the journey is the journey, and to be willing to do whatever it takes to get to where we want to be. It's the same thing in business. Are we going to get comfortable and say, hey, maybe I don't need to return those phone calls, or that person didn't call me when they were supposed to call me, and yet it's your opportunity? I'd be calling them. And Carl knows me. If I didn't hear from someone, I'm going to pick up that phone within 5 minutes, 2 minutes if possible, 1 minute, give at least 1 minute grace period. If somebody didn't call me, I'm going to pick up that phone. I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to bring it to fruition. Even Unstoppable, the book came from that too. The book title challenged me. When I was writing the book, the original person who was hired to do the cover wouldn't release pictures, wouldn't release the cover, wouldn't do things. People ended up not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And like every step of the way, I had to continue smiling and keep moving forward and believing that it would happen. I had people who were there to help me do developmental editing, and would turn around. One of them turned around, looked at the timeline and said, see that timeline? We need to change it. I looked at the timeline, looked at the person, said, we're going to keep a timeline. We will complete this in time. And it was completed in time. Okay. Against anything and everything, we must be willing to hold that belief and use our will to make it happen.
I love that, because a lot of times people will blame circumstances, or they'll say, well, if it was meant to be, God would let it happen. But it's really also about the actual inner you. What is the actual need, or the dedication you have to see it through? Because yes, life happens, things will come in and become stop gaps in your way, but are you going to allow those to be what kills your dream or your passion, or are you going to find a way around those and keep pushing forward? And that's a great example, especially of releasing a book. You have a timeline, someone comes and tells you, nah, let's push it back, and you're like, no, it can be done, because it can be done, because you have the actual energy, and you have to thrive in the passion to make sure that it gets done.
And we do, and we have that capacity to be able to say, hey, I've got this. And to be excited. I think a lot of the times we're walking around defeated, deflated, right? How many of us have been there? I've sometimes tapped into that. How do I tap into that joy and that excitement of what's there, relish in the moment of our already being accomplished, and know how sweet that is? Sometimes we don't take the courage. We don't take those courageous actions. We don't take it into consideration. We don't say, hey, you know what? I've got this. Be that 2-year-old. I want that toy. Like, I'm going to get that toy, and I'm
Mhm.
going to do whatever it takes to have that toy, all within its own boundaries, right? You're going to do everything that's there that is possible and probable for us.
And that speaks to learning how to pivot. Because a lot of times we hear the word, but we don't really understand it or see it in action. So, to understand how to pivot in life, not just business, not just a career, but how to pivot in life, can really allow you to see your dreams come true. When someone else is um, putting themselves up as, oh, they're going to help you, and then they either drop the ball or something gets in the way, you still have to pick up the phone. You have to reach out. You have to make sure that if they can't do it, you find other people who can. And like Carl and I always say in a lot of these shows, is that your community is there for that. And Carl was an amazing example for that for me this week, because he was there for me, even if I just had to unleash and just say
Unload.
my woes, he was there. And that's a lot of times what you need to really figure out in your community, who is there to really help you, and then move forward with them. Don't worry about those who are not coming through, or just not doing what you were hoping to do, but continue to move forward, and people will gravitate to you and see that they can help you.
And none of us are going to do this alone. None
Hmm.
of us. I don't know where in the world we thought we were going to do it by ourselves, right? That's where a community, it takes a village. I say it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. It
Yeah.
definitely does, right? And to support an entrepreneur and to hold that vision, that dream, it's a lot easier to run with 100 people in the same direction than to
Yeah.
try to have those 3 people in our lives who are pushing us down constantly, not believing in our dreams. And Charlene, you talk about pivoting. We all have to pivot, right? And COVID taught us right now the greatest thing to do was to pivot. How do we do things differently? I was in the midst of being on stages all over the place, flying in one day. I'm like, whew, no stages, no flying, no airports, no nothing. And here we are. How do I pivot? I took that opportunity to launch a new program for myself. I launched the Mindshift Game. I went ahead and did everything that it took. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of the game here to help people so that they can be that amazing winner, so that they can take those courageous actions. Because sometimes we forget how to take courageous actions. Sometimes we need to build our confidence, expand our vision. What would it look like for us to actually go and do what makes our heart sing every day? What would it look like for us to own our power? And I mean power as in, I can do this. And to show up energetically, because sometimes we show up like limp noodles. Let's be honest, right? We go to a networking meeting and we're like deflated, something happened, and then we're wondering why we don't connect with people, as opposed to walking in and being excited about life, excited about what we're doing, excited about what is possible and probable for us. And that, to me, the moment of pivot is the moment of decision. There's a decision in each and every one of our lives, and we get to choose what we create. And even in the midst of chaos, in chaos, okay, this happened to be a huge thing in our history with the pandemic. And we also have chaos in our own lives. At 33, I was an empty nester. I had the car, the house, the kid, the education, the business, the network, the whatever. And as I turned 34, I had a wake up call, and that was wake up and live. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And in that moment, I had to make decisions. Am I actually doing what's making my heart sing? Because prior to that, I was chasing money. How many of us haven't chased money, right? Where somebody told us, oh, this degree is going to pay you more, or this is the career that you should go, or mom or dad, a teacher, preacher, call it what you will. We end up following somebody else's dream, not our own, somebody else's dream. And then we get caught in our mid-career and we're saying, hey, I really wanted to be a baker, yet I'm an attorney. How do I make that shift? Or doctors who are masseuses. They wanted to be a masseuse. Okay, what a concept, right? They spent 30 years as an MD, and yet they wanted to do something different. I think we've all been there and done that. For me, that was my wake-up call. That was a call where, let me do this full time, because I had continued to mentor and coach individuals my entire career. And now I had to accept my calling. And some of us know exactly what I'm talking about, that
Mhm.
we haven't accepted our gifts. And the moment that we accept our gifts, everything else starts to flow. What makes my heart sing is to watch people like you and I who have extraordinary success, and we're getting what we want out of life, that we're living a better personal life, that we have a better career, that we are living a fulfilled life. At the end of the day, that's all what we want, right? All of us want to live a fulfilled life.
And I think it's important. You touched on a lot of important things, and and I know me. I'm a product of this. Who I had this design, this pattern, this push that was from, and I can say about 99% of it comes from parents. And I was very very specific once I became a parent, and not becoming my parent.
Mm.
And in that, I didn't discount the things they knew, what they taught me, what the level that they were at, with what they know, with how they enforce. I didn't discount that, but what I wanted to do was I wanted my perspective to be my perspective for my children, so they can have their perspective. I didn't
Mhm.
want that because my mom was a CPA, and her thing to the whole house, she wanted a whole house full of CPAs. Like, and I'm like, okay, so we're good with math. Like, I could count money like a drop of hat, tell you percentages and all of that. That's not my interest. That's not my passion. And I think a lot of times we have those, as you said, doctors and things of that. I have a neighbor that he's been a truck driver for low many years, six-figure truck driver, beautiful home, the whole nine. And I was teasing the other day because I saw his truck in his driveway, and I was like, "Oh, you're not driving no more?" He said, "No." He said, "I enrolled in school." He said, "I always wanted to work on computers." But like
Mhm.
he's done this truck driving job for like years. So a lot of times we get caught in that hamster wheel of what someone else wants us to be. And I think the pandemic has to some extent given us some opportunities to go take back our lives, so to speak. How important is that for us to follow those passions, and how important is that not only to follow them, how do we get to them after being on this treadmill for so long? What are some of
Mhm.
your thoughts of that? How do we get back to that place of where, 20 years ago, instead of an MD, I just want to be an artist on the beach. How do
Right.
we get back to those kind of things now?
And to return back to it, and that's the entire reason why I wrote Unstoppable. That was for that very, very reason, to help people understand that it's a journey. It is a journey. It's a lot easier for somebody to guide you through your journey, to help you understand where you've been. Because, yes, you may want to be that baker and go back into discovering what that is. And there's still 99% of the program. Let's just assume that there's only 100 pieces of information right there. One of them, I want to be a baker, and I'm taking action to create that business plan. Yet there's still 99 things that I'm still doing from my past ways of being, beliefs that I carry, that are going to end up to destroying what I'm actually creating. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
everything inside of our subconscious mind says, you are that attorney, you are that doctor, you are that accountant, you are whatever it is that we became. And here's where we get discouraged, because we don't see the change. We don't see what we desire. This is where I have individuals that come to me who have earned 70 million and lose it, 10 million and lose it,
Wow.
2 million, and they go on this perpetual roller coaster that they'll continue to go on forever until they
Mhm.
break that pattern, until they start to make a new decision. And we all have that capacity to be able to do that. In the process, we have to have courage, because it takes courage to look in the mirror. It takes courage to see what we're doing and to be able to identify it and get very curious about it and shift it to decide, I want to do something different. And I
Mhm.
choose to do something different. And I'm going to do something different every time I catch myself. And in order to catch myself, I must be an observer of self. And it's so much more helpful when you have somebody who is guiding you through that process and saying, Rocio, let's get curious about this. What do you see in there? You know, why are we here for the 10th time? Let's get curious in a way that is so subtle. that we get it and then we can step out of it and start to create things. It's easy for anybody to give you advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easy part. And that only serves the person that gives the advice. That's the ego boost. Okay, that's the way we call it. I truly believe that we're all amazing. We're like, let's take for example, today I was out walking. A lot of amazing trees out there. That tree came from the tiniest little seed, right? Any plant, any tree, anything came from a tiny little seed. And everything that that tree would ever become was inside of that tree. The texture of the flowers, if it has flowers, the texture of the leaves, the branches, the bark, the everything, whatever's in there was already inside of it. And that, to me, is human being. That our potential is all inside of us. Nobody's helped us mine that potential. I like to call myself the architect of the mind, the archaeologist and the architect of the mind. Archaeologist, because we get to discover how did this person came here to be, and the architect is how do we build this person to be who they want to be. Okay, and this is where individuals are saying, "Hey, Rocio, I've had more success in 10 months than what I had in 30 years." Going through a process like this. I never thought, the countless number of testimonials where we get people saying, Lucy, I never thought that it would be possible to live a life like this. How's that possible? Right. And they're the ones doing the work. I provide the process. And the process is a process that inspires them to be more, to want more, to seek for more, to be elated about life, to dance with life.
And as we are coming up on the hour, I wanted to make sure that we got people to not only connect with you, but I know you mentioned your book and you mentioned the game that you launched. Can you let people know where to get those?
Most definitely. Anyone can reach me directly by phone at 303 587 8367. That is 303 587 8367. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn under Rocio Perez as well. And you can also email me at info at inventivaconsulting.com. And you have my LinkedIn right there. I know, Carl, you just put it up. So that's a great thing. You can reach me on LinkedIn anytime, and more than happy to help people on their amazing journeys. It's for teams, it's for leaders, it's for individuals. And I promise you, as you guide yourself through your own process and you get through the very end, which is a 1 year process, you will see that you're a different person. We've had individuals who landed their dream jobs, saved their marriages, saved their businesses, created amazing experiences with their family. It's it's what the individual likes to accomplish on that.
Love that. Love that.
Yes, love that, love that. I got the we're going to be working on some things, so I'm
Mhm.
excited about Rocio and what we're going to be working on, and we're on the same wavelength of the unstoppable leader. And I just think about just the terms of that and what that actually means and how that is applicable to each and every individual. A lot of times I'm a words guy, so a lot of times we look at words and those words and we get stumbled by the definition of and how to apply them and what do they really mean to you. But unstoppable is just individual. What does you as the individual want to keep moving towards? My unstoppable is not yours and vice versa. And it's important that people understand that. I am applauding your program and how you take people through that. Like I said, it was something that I had not heard before on a plateau of people really want to, because everybody wants to inspire, everybody wants to transform, everybody wants to kind of like, be the guru, the next Gandhi sitting on the hill, legs crossed kind of thing, just opening it up for people. But where are we actually giving people the tools to go do those transformations? And are we enabling them to be those kind of leaders that we're looking for? And we didn't even really jump into the aspect of the work and the diversity and those things and that in the business part of that, but it covers so much. So like you, like all our guests are gonna have to have you back for part two. That's I
Mhm.
stole that from Charlene. She loves to
Yes,
see she love to have the part two guests on. So we definitely
I
going to have
do.
to to cover some more bases in that, and with that inclusion and that diversity aspect and that vulnerability piece. That what you have shared is really like what I've been preaching for years. Like someone needs to hear this because
Mhm.
they're sitting in this and they're trapped, and there's no realization, there's no hope, there's no, like, they can't see, like my grandma said, you can't see the forest for the trees. It's just so dense in the area that they're in their life, that I would say, for lack of a better word, a lot of times lose hope and they just continue on the wheel. But when you hear stories like these, it's empowered. That's why I fight for people to be vulnerable in it, because your story, share your story, save a life. I wrote that a few months ago in an article. If you share your story, you'd be surprised how many lives you will change just by someone hearing your story. And I appreciate you sharing that with us this morning. Charlene, what you got for us?
Well, we've been having such an amazing time doing this show, and I just wanted to say thank everyone. I want to thank everyone on behalf of Carl too for actually applying and being part of the show. You guys, without you, literally, this would not be what we've always intended it to be, which was to showcase you, allow you to tell your story, just like Rocio. Come out here, allow people to learn from you, because it's one thing where we're all connecting on LinkedIn, but it's a different thing to actually get to know each other, get to understand where each other is coming from, why we started our either our businesses or why we're in a career path that we're in. um, and a lot of that is because of you guys. So we are officially booking into October, which is super excited. And if you want to be a part of that, please don't forget, you can apply, just fill out the form. Then you can be a guest too. You can be featured as well. And I just want to give shout outs to all the ladies because the
Yes.
ladies in the community are really taking that step and they're taking action. I don't know if it's the year of the woman, I don't know what's happening, but fellas, if you guys have a story, which we know you do,
Come on, fellas.
come
Come on,
on and
fellas.
share your story. The women are leading the way. They are showing you that it's not hard. We're having a sit down, we're chilling out with each other, and we're allowing us to get to know each other on a laid back platform, because I'm sorry, my phone, because we always get that understanding that LinkedIn is so stuffy and we don't know how to really relate to each other. But you're on this show where it's a really laid back, you're relaxed, you're having a conversation and allowing people to really see who you are, allowing yourself to shine through. Rocio, thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. Your story alone is sparking a lot of thoughts in my mind of things that I know that I can be doing better, and really pushing myself, not just waiting for someone else to push me, and really making sure that if I have my own map, my own roadmap, which I say to my clients too, your roadmap is what allows others to understand where you're going and how to help you get there. So I appreciate you for sharing your story. Is there anything else that you would like us to do to support you? We're happy to do that. Please share with
Absolutely.
us.
Thank you so much. And getting the word out to as many people as possible. Again, we all have the power within us. And
Yes.
I think most importantly, be careful to who you listen to. Right?
Mhm.
If there's a lot of things that I listen to on YouTube that are angry, right? There's like, get up and do it type of thing. And that is fine and dandy. And we're also programming ourselves with anger. We're also programming ourselves with a lot of different things that we don't want to be. How about we program ourselves with love and possibility and opportunity and abundance and joy and all of that? We
Yes.
cannot have the opposite of what we desire, right? We cannot have abundance when we're over here preaching anger and hatred and pain and whatever. If we want abundance, we must be in abundance. And for that, we must return to who we came here to be.
Me,
That
you
is
know, I was gonna do a mic drop, but I don't want to tell my microphone. I got to use it. 'Cause that was just really a sum it all to be all summation right there. That's a closing argument for you attorneys out there and listening to us. That was a closing argument there that just definitely rung the bell. We got to look at this thing from a perspective of that because I do see the angry coaches, the angry consultants, the angry trainers, and I guess it's coming from a place of love, so they say, but everybody's not the same. So you got to figure out everybody can take love. That's one thing that's above all that's we all have in common. We all can give and receive love, but
Hmm.
everybody can't receive the toughness, the hollering, and that's amazing how that works, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
it is.
Uh, yes. All right, yeah. This is we have another outstanding show that we've had today. We had a beautiful guest, Rocio. We are definitely going to have her back for part two. Yeah, we're doing part two. Yeah, if you haven't been on, gentlemen, I'm making a roll call out. I know I got almost 11,000 people in my network. And I got some amazing men in there in my network as well that are doing it, that are being these leaders, that are giving to these communities, that are being these fathers, definitely foremost for that, and to being these strong men in these corporations and CEOs and whatever titles they may be. But we got to get some of you men on here with us because the ladies, I won't say it's a competition, but man, for the past, if you've been watching the past 5, 6 shows, man, they have put it down. So, yes, this is a lady and a guy host. So I need some guys to be on. I'm putting I'm putting the call out, but thank you so much again, Rochelle, for coming back. We will be back on Thursday at 10 o'clock. You know how we do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Real talk with Carl and
Tell
Charlene.
them who we have on Thursday.
Yes, we're gonna have Lisa Asap on Thursday. Another wonderful lady who's got a story to tell and is doing great things. I mean, I'm gonna let her tell it, but she's doing amazing things. She started her company, and pandemic has pushed some people out, and everybody's not hanging around the trees. It's some people out flying and they're doing some things. So we putting them on. We give you access to them, giving you their information so you can get their resources. You can make connections with them. See how they can transform your lives because you know how we transforming. We're transforming the way we do it, and they're helping us to do that.
Hmm.
That's it. Charlene, you close us out.
Well, guys, you know it's about that time. Giving you 5 minutes back in your life. And just wanted to thank you all for coming through again. One more time, Rocio, thank you so much for being an amazing
Yes,
guest,
appreciate you.
sharing your story, sharing how we can really level up in our lives and in our careers to become unstoppable leaders. I appreciate you. Carl appreciates
Yes,
you. And I
yes,
know our audience appreciates you. Carla, thank you. Shakita, thank you for coming through. Scott, that's who I can see on my end. Ingor, I hope I said your name
yes. And
properly.
Gore, yes,
Thank you so much. You guys have really come through. And that's just naming a few people. And of course, on the replay, drop replay in the comments so we know that you were here and drop your comments so Rocio can also see them and respond to those as well. Thank you all for coming through. And until Thursday, catch you
to
guys next
Thursday, people. See you at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Thank you, guests, everybody who showed up. Love.
time. Love.